Hello, everyone. It's Phil Jacobus. It's Wednesday, August 19th. I'm here at my home in Woodstock, New York. Although last week, and I interviewed Randy Clark, who is an executive with Olympus. It was a very interesting interview, and I'm sure that you'll enjoy it. But before we get to that, let's take a look at a couple of the news stories that are on Health CareBusiness News Online. First, you see, here's a story about the changing work practices at hospitals for construction workers. It's rough and tumble people, but they have to adhere to certain policies to protect their lives. So this is an interesting story written by a professional. And another very interesting story is about the relationship between NYU Langone and Facebook, and how they've developed artificial intelligence for MR to make the whole process 4 times faster, just as accurate as conventional. It's something that they've been working on for a while, and I think you'll enjoy this, find this story interesting. As always, I encourage you to sign up for our online news. It's free, it's very interesting. We cover the latest and greatest every day. You'll always find something fun to read. We also have our press room and people on the move and so forth. So please go to .med and sign up. And now I would like to welcome our special guest, Mr. Randy Clark. Randy, thank you for joining us.
No, thank you, Phil. I appreciate the opportunity.
And in case you don't recognize the shirt there, Randy works for Olympus. Randy, I can't believe there's a person in the universe who isn't familiar with Olympus, but if you wouldn't mind, from 5,000 feet in the air, can you tell us a little bit about Olympus and where you fit into the team?
Sure, absolutely. So Olympus is probably most well known for the GI side of our business. So we're privileged to, have a comprehensive GI portfolio for capital and devices on that side of the business. But then on the surgical side, we've had some Olympus technology that's been around, since the beginnings, and then we've been fortunate to acquire some additional companies through various mergers and acquisitions. So we have a surgical endoscopy side of the business, a systems integration part of the business, a full energy portfolio, urology, ENT, and GYN. So we run about 8 different business units, and I have the privilege to work with them and lead them for the U.S. market.
And like all great leaders, Randy is a modest guy, so his official title is president of Olympus Medical Systems, so he wouldn't say it himself, so I'm going to say it for him. So Randy, there's elective procedures. A lot of Olympus products are used in elective procedures, and as we all know, elective procedures have been reduced. How's Olympus dealing with that, and how is it helping healthcare providers deal with that?
Yeah, no, great question. And again, on a global basis, you're seeing different regions recover at different rates. Obviously, Asia Pacific, different than Europe, different from South America, and different from North America. From a company perspective, we just released an update on our earnings, in the prior weeks. And, there's a great deal of information. If anyone's interested, just tap onto the website there. From a U.S. perspective, the initial stop of elective procedures, really hit our consumable and device side or single-use side of the business, really at a same procedural level. So as you saw that drop off, we saw that impact the consumable side. The benefit or the good news is, as you're seeing procedures resume, you're seeing those business have a high correlation with that same uptake. The only differences with the data are certain specialties are recovering at different rates. So, urology is different than ENT, which is different from some of the general surgery businesses. We also have a strong capital side of the business. And obviously, as hospitals and other clinical care settings were addressing their own kind of balance sheet and cash flow model, scenario modeling, our units are down versus prior year from a capital perspective, but they're now starting to steadily increase. The big change that we're seeing is really more from cash to operating leases. We're blessed to have our own captive finance company, and they're receiving a ton of requests from all sites of care, really when it comes to operating leases. I'd say the biggest impact that we've seen has really been the impact on our field employees. As Olympus and as other medtech companies, the field employee base experienced restricted access from hospitals and other clinical care sites literally overnight. So that's been the biggest challenge is how to effectively pivot, because again, as cases resume, surgeons, nurses, staff count on industry for advice in the moment. And that could be on device setup, device settings, scope choices, picture optimization, various troubleshooting that could occur during a case. And your listeners know all too well that procedure rooms are just very busy spaces. A typical hospital can have over 40,000 devices. Those devices carry with them, up to 32,000 different device settings. So our quick response team at Olympus was not only focused on business continuity of again, how to run the company, but our quick response team was immediately focused on how to continue to provide our product expertise without being physically in the room.
And how did you do that?
Well, we were blessed to have a technology that's been around for a couple of years. So we have a technology solution that's perfectly suited to address this situation. And it's referred to or known as MedPresence. It's a telecollaboration solution that allows virtual support from experts outside the procedure room, essentially bringing that expertise into the room while physically keeping people out. It was originally developed to enhance physician collaboration, physician consultation, and even training, whether that's training, peer-to-peer, physician to physician, or training from industry, training various HCPs. We were able to quickly pivot this into an opportunity to fill the need of a virtual rep per se. So again, it's not a startup, it's not a new technology for us. It's fully functional, it's mature, and most of all, secure. It has security and privacy features that help support HIPAA compliance. And I love having these conversations, because as we've all adopted to Zoom or Teams or various web collaborations to really help business continuity, that's what people immediately think. They're like, oh, it's a Zoom call when they hear about this, but it's this and so much more when you consider that it's crucial, again, to have different ways to integrate various inputs that exist in the clinical care setting. So to paint the picture, when somebody securely, or when a hospital securely invites a medical rep to a procedure, that medical rep can customize their own view of any inputs, such as a pan-tilt zoom camera, a boom camera, endoscopic camera, laparoscopic, microscope, C-arm, literally anything. Combine this with the ability to telestrate, speak, text, and it's incredible how much a remote specialist can actually do. And the only point of clarification is, again, when I have these conversations with hospitals, they think it could be an Olympus technology exclusively for Olympus technology, and that couldn't be furthest from the case. It's completely vendor neutral. So the picture that we paint, Olympus isn't in the orthopedic business, but if you have an orthopedic surgeon who works with, industry specialists for insights into implant sizing, your medical device rep could be able to have that same view of the back table or other inputs to enable them to access that same level of expertise, but just done virtually.
I'm just curious, and briefly, how does in the procedure room, what did the personnel look at? Do they look at an iPad? Is there a monitor mounted on the wall? What is it?
Yeah, so in the actual procedure room, they're just focused, and so they're going to have basically if it's a minimally invasive laparoscopic case, they'll see the laparoscopic image, but similar to a Zoom call, you may have your, who's entered that space by invitation on the right-hand side of that screen. They can have a touchpad then to, again, if a physician wanted to telestrate something on it, or if the remote person wanted to telestrate or point something on, or point out something specific to advise in the case, they can do that in a two-way. So it could be the physician, it could be the scrub tech, it could be the circulating nurse, that could have kind of their own customized view with various touch pads that can be in that room, or again, remotely, you'd be doing it from your computer, your iPad, or your smartphone.
Well, that's very innovative, and I guess we're all fortunate that it was invented before the pandemic so that all the bugs are worked out.
Absolutely.
So let me change gears just for a minute. What's your, a well-informed person, what are your thoughts about the future of healthcare?
Yeah, the future of healthcare, I really see, the pandemic is changing the site of care. So certain procedures are moving from the hospital to the ASC environment, and even further downstream to the office environment. So the trend began pre-COVID, but COVID is just an accelerant to make that shift. More is being done virtually, and more will continue to be done virtually. It's great to see even the telehealth services have a high adoption, because currently the clinical care settings are overburdened, they're stretched. So finding efficient solutions that can create value are tremendous opportunities for healthcare facilities to consider. The test is for it to be more long-term. These can't be temporary solutions. They have to be sticky, they have to have a high adoption, and they have to make a difference. As we spoke to a little bit earlier, we're all finding ways to be more agile in how we run our companies, how we run our lives, and how facilities are truly changing how they operate. People are being forced into change management, which is one of the hardest things for people to overcome, is that kind of change management evolution. So in the past, where they may have resisted change, COVID is forcing people to literally try new things. So I think our technologies is going to be a great example. How many people are going to try it? How many people are going to adopt it? And how sticky is it going to be in the marketplace? Again, I think it can lead to greater efficiencies in the procedure rooms by limiting the number of people who have to be physically present, but it can lead to greater efficiencies in healthcare of how industry operates. So if we can support more reps, if reps can support more cases virtually and not have to deal with travel time between cases, it's going to allow them to offer more support to more accounts on a daily basis. So the pandemic is changing the whole kind of ecosystem, and it's really going to strike home again, what efficiencies or what opportunities are there in the marketplace to continuously improve, and are those going to be sustainable for the long term?
Almost science fiction, huh?
Absolutely.
Well, Randy, I really appreciate your time. You're a very interesting and well-informed guy, and I want to thank you for joining us, and I hope we have the chance to meet in person sometime.
Yeah, as do I. Big fan of .med, so this has been an absolute pleasure, and can't thank you enough for the opportunity.
Thank you so very much.